They called it The Curse of the 10 Doors. Nobody remembered who said it first, but it spread like rot through the stories passed between bored students, night shift bartenders, and ghost tour guides rehearsing their lines. All of them knew what it meant. 10 places across the city. 10 doors you should never knock on, because some doors knock back. I never believed any of it. Ghost stories were just New York's way of hiding the real horrors: rent, rats, and regret. But then I met Isaac. He was the kind of guy who never stayed still long enough for you to know whether he was brilliant or insane. We worked together briefly on a preservation project with the city archives, digging through yellowed schematics of colonial homes and sorting half-burnt papers from old law offices. One night, while nursing a warm beer and the beginnings of a migraine, he told me about a project he was secretly working on, mapping out the 10 doors. "Not all of them are literal," he whispered, like the shadows might be listening. "Some are thresholds, moments. Others are places where things crossed into this world." I laughed, told him to write a novel. He didn't laugh back. That was the last night I saw him alive. A week later, I was contacted by a woman named June Elwell. Said she was Isaac's sister. Said she found my name on a note tucked into a folder labeled The Morris File. "You were the last person he talked to," she said. "He was obsessed with this mansion up in Washington Heights, Morris Jumel. Said the veil there was thin." I knew the place, everyone did. Ghost tours always made a stop at the estate, with tales of Eliza Jumel gliding through hallways and whispering to school children. One kid allegedly peed his pants, another fainted. Standard urban legend stuff. But June showed me Isaac's notebook. Page after page of maps, overlapping timelines, and red ink sketches of the mansion's structure. "There's something buried in the walls," he wrote. "Not bones, not relics. A moment, trapped like a wasp in amber, screaming." I should have walked away, but the notebook had something else. Coordinates. 9 more sets. The other doors. The second place I visited was the Dakota. Ornate, intimidating. A building more myth than architecture. Security barely looked at me as I slipped into the lobby. I'd faked a delivery badge, a trick Isaac apparently used often. The elevator groaned as it climbed. Floor 9. The hallway stretched like a throat about to swallow me. A girl in Victorian clothes stood at the far end, facing the window. I blinked. She was gone. When I approached the window, I noticed the faintest smudge on the glass, like someone's breath. Beneath it, a series of scratched words etched into the wood of the sill. "He still sings in Dutch." I left. Quickly. Third stop, the Merchant's House Museum in the East Village. I arrived just before closing. A docent was locking up and gave me a dismissive wave when I asked about the ghost. "Everyone asks," she said. "Treadwell's daughter, yeah. She loved lilacs. People say the scent lingers." "Have you ever seen her?" She paused. "No," she said. Then softer, "But I've heard her. She weeps when someone lies in that house." I didn't sleep that night. The fourth door was on Spring Street, the old Manhattan Well. Now it's a chic store with overpriced espresso and minimalist decor. But I knew what was beneath the floorboards. The staff let me take a photo near the back wall. I pretended to drop my phone and knelt, placing my palm against the hardwood. It was cold, too cold. As I stood, I heard it, a woman's voice echoing from beneath my feet. I waited. He never came. I ran. By now, I was losing time. Hours blurred. My reflection began to shift. I'd look in a mirror and feel like something was standing just behind me. The fifth door was Staten Island, the conference house. I got there at sunset. The place was nearly deserted. The docent let me walk the grounds. That's when I heard the scream. High, piercing, a girl's scream. It sliced the dusk like a blade. I turned. No one was there. And yet, the ground near the back steps was recently disturbed. Fresh earth, small shoe prints, just one set. The sixth door was the Chelsea Hotel, but I'll save that for part 2. Would you knock? The sixth door was the Chelsea Hotel. You could feel the weight of stories pressed into its walls like fossils. Overdoses, betrayals, disappearances. I checked in under a false name, requesting room 100, the one they say Nancy Spungen bled out in. The clerk raised an eyebrow. You a ghost hunter? I shrugged, just curious. That night, the room didn't feel haunted. It felt occupied. The temperature dropped around 2:17 a.m. I heard rustling near the bathroom door. I turned, but no one was there. Then I noticed it. The mirror was fogged, even though there'd been no shower, and written in it, one word: mine. I left before sunrise. The seventh location was St. Mark's Church in the Bowery. Not as famous, but old. Deeply old. Bones of the city old. I arrived during a midday service. The choir's voices echoed through the domed ceiling, but I could hear it. Another voice, discordant, muttering in a language I didn't know. After the service, I lingered by the altar. A janitor approached me. You heard him, didn't you? Who? Stuyvesant, the old Dutchman. He sings sometimes, but only when someone's close to death. The eighth door was the Manhattan Well. I had already touched the surface, but now I needed to go deeper. I bribed a contact from the Department of Buildings to let me into the basement below Spring Street. The well was still there, stone-lined, dry, forgotten. I leaned over the rim, dropping a pebble. No sound. Then a whisper echoed up. I'm not alone. I stepped back, and then, without warning, the sound of fingernails scraping up the stone wall began to rise. I didn't wait. I ran. The door slammed behind me on its own. By the time I reached the ninth door, the Lefferts Laidlaw House near the Brooklyn Navy Yard, I was unraveling. My thoughts twisted into knots. My dreams bled into my waking hours. The house was shuttered, but I snuck in through a broken cellar window. The floorboards creaked like they remembered every death. In the parlor, I heard knocking, then pounding, then silence. A moment later, a brick flew through the window, shattering the room. I looked outside. Nothing. No footsteps. No wind. Just the echo. And then came the 10th door. 85 West 3rd Street. NYU now, but once Poe walked its halls. He wrote The Cask of Amontillado there. The Raven. Stories about guilt, entombment, madness. I visited at night,
The security guard didn't stop me. I climbed the old staircase, the only part of the original building that remained. I expected cold. Instead, I felt pressure, like the air thickened with each step. At the top, I saw it, a man in a dark coat, half turned toward me, pale face, piercing eyes. He nodded, then vanished. When I returned home, I was changed. I couldn't shake the feeling that I brought something back. I started locking my bedroom door. Then I started hearing knocks. 10 nights in a row, 10 knocks, 1 per door. On the 11th night, silence. Then came the whisper, "You opened them. Now they're open for you." I installed bells on the doorknob. A friend said it helps. Spirits don't like music, he claimed. I laughed, but I did it anyway. That night I heard tapping from the kitchen.
Weird. I lived alone, and I kept my pet cockatiel in a locked cage near the fridge. I walked slowly toward the sound. The tapping grew faster, like frantic fingernails. When I turned the corner, the tapping stopped. The cage was empty, still locked. Only one feather remained, spinning slowly in the air. I barely slept. My friend told me to keep the bells, but now add salt lines at the doors and windows. I did. I even lit sage, but that didn't stop the screeching. A new sound, thin, piercing, like something between metal grinding and a baby's cry. It started low, barely audible. Then it grew. One night it came from the closet, the next from under the bed. I sat on the floor, knees to my chest, trying not to breathe. And then I heard it laugh. Not loud, not human. A childlike giggle, but hollow. The last night I made a decision. I'd go back to the Morris Jumel mansion, where it started, where Isaac's obsession began. I stood outside the gate as the clock struck midnight. I whispered, "I close what I opened." The wind howled in reply. I walked through the door. I haven't been seen since, but every night someone hears bells, then a tap, then a whisper. "Would you like to open the door?"